a former Navy veteran, and a proud union member for the last 18 years for the IEA. Pretty much everything I have and everything I own is a result of union membership. My father was a union plumber growing up. I'm a union member. My wife is a union member. And you know what my wife as a union member is doing today on Labor Day? She's at school making sure that her lessons are good for the rest of this week, so that her students learn every bit of the way. Labor unions are great. They're the backbone of society. They're great because they're just like the Constitution. They don't care if you're male or female. They don't care if you're white, African American, Hispanic American, Latino American. They don't care if you're Democratic or Republican, liberal or conservative. They care that you work in a safe place and for a livable wage. And that's all they care about. They are the essence of what the Constitution is. People who seek to destroy unions seek to destroy the middle class. And the middle class is what grows the economy. And we cannot afford to have people in power that destroy the middle class and destroy the economy. It's not by luck that the wealth distribution continues to grow and the labor union membership shrinks. That is by design. We need to fight that every step of the way. And Randy Hultgren has fought for the 1% and will continue to fight for the 1% until November when we kick him out. By hook or crook, we'll do it. ElectVictorSwanson.com. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'll try and keep this as short as possible. I know you're sitting out there in the rain. My name is George Weber. I'm running for the 14th Congressional District seat also. My primary platform is prosperity for the middle class. And the reason I'm running is basically I feel that my children and their generation are threatened like they have never had, a generation never has been before. Basically, my parents were immigrants from Europe. My father spent his entire career working on an assembly line at a Chevy engine plant. He was a member of the UAW. He was able to retire at a decent age because he had a pension. When he was working, he had his medical benefits paid for. And again, my parents had an average middle class life. Myself, I just retired as a chemical engineer. My wife is a teacher in Crystal Lake, and she's a member of CLETA, the teachers union there. And we've got pensions. I was able to retire at a decent age because of the fact that I worked at a time when our medical benefits were paid for. When again we had pensions. Now that's all changing. I've watched it change over the last 20 years. My children, I have 3 children, my wife and I have 3 children, they don't have pensions. And I asked my son once, I said, what do you think of retirement? And he said basically, well, I'm gonna have to work till I'm 80 years old. And I said, that's not gonna happen, that's why I'm here. I'm not a politician. A year ago, I did not have anything to do with politics, but after he said that, I said, something has to be done. And part of my frustration is that nothing is getting done in Washington. I mean, we have a number of jobs that we have to do. We have to unseat Randy Hultgren. We have to get Donald Trump out of the White House. And then we have to get things moving in Washington. The career politicians that are there are not doing their job. We have to get things moving. And the first thing we have to do, I'll just talk a little bit about what I call the employee shareholder balance that we have to shift. That's what I mentioned before, where companies exist to basically produce a product or provide a service. And they can do one of 2 things with their money. They can either provide it to the shareholders or the employees. And over the last 20 years, that balance has been shifting towards the shareholders because the CEOs work for the shareholders. They don't work for the employees. And that balance has to be brought back. And that's where unions come in. They are the primary tool that we have to use to bring that balance back towards the employees. You might say, well, it's good that the shareholders are doing well. Well, the shareholders, unfortunately, 25% of the U.S. Stock market is owned by foreigners, and the rest is owned primarily by the richest people. About 82% of the stock market is owned by the wealthiest 10%. So by having a stock market that's doing well, it doesn't mean anything for the rest of us. So that has to change. In addition, we know what all the problems are: health care. Besides having the worst health care system in the world, out of all the developed countries, we pay twice as much as what other countries do. We pay about $8,500 per person for health care. The other countries like Canada and the European countries pay about $4,000 per person. That's got to change. Okay, I'm not going to pay anymore for twice as much as what everybody else pays. Then we all know about climate change. There's no question there, but nothing's happening there either, especially with our present administration. And finally, one of the big problems, I think, is our debt. What they did, our debt right now is as big as it was after World War II and after the Great Depression. The way we paid it off back then is we raised the tax rate on the wealthiest to 94% during the 1940s, and it stayed at 92% from 1950 to 1964. We have to do that again. The wealthy have done well over the last 20 years. They've become rich because of the stock market and because of compounding. Now they have to pay. They should help pay for our debt, and we can do it. We did it after World War II. We can do it again. So again, those are the primary. We've got all kinds of problems, but we can solve them. And I feel like, because again, I feel my children are threatened. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Washington and be more militant than I think anybody else is. And with your help, we can work together and we can take back our government, which right now we don't control anymore. It's controlled by politicians. We can't allow that to happen. So again, George Weber for Congress, appreciate your support.
Right there is fine. Right there is fine. There is right.
Somebody's excited for me. All right. I have the inenviable situation to be the last speaker, I think, and the one keeping you from being in the rain any longer. I wanted a chance to introduce myself today. My name is Matt Brawley. I'm the mayor in Montgomery, and I'm a civil engineer. And like many of you, I've been a Democrat for my whole life. And November of last year was difficult, to say the least. My wife and I woke up, and we didn't know what we were going to tell our kids. We have a 6- and 7-year-old kid, and my daughter, my wife's family's from Mexico, and my daughter is very much attached to her family that still lives in Mexico. And she would say things to me like, Donald Trump doesn't like Mexicans. Donald Trump wants to build a wall to keep me from my grandma. And when the rhetoric from one man is impacting a 6-year-old, that's what planted the seed for me. Because if it's bad for her, it's worse for the working family, anybody that believes in science and truth. And it's bigger than that. The middle class, I don't need to tell you, everybody, has been crushed over the last several decades. And it's time for us to stand up and do something. One of the things I give credit to the Indivisible movement every time I speak is that people were frustrated, people wanted to be involved. How many people are precinct committeemen for the first time? Or precinct committeemen in general? Yeah, seriously. Seriously, that is the ground floor of democracy. And so filling these positions is going to be huge. But DC is broken right now, and I'm a civil engineer, and by nature, engineers want to fix things. And so I think if we can all agree, there's certainly a lot of bridges to be built out in DC and things that need fixing. And we're all running against, by the way, I realized something. All of the candidates that spoke today have one thing in common, at least one thing other than they're running for the same office. All of our wives are teachers.
That is true.
And they're all probably working, getting ready for the week. So, of course, we stand with union. We stand with organized labor. Randy Hochran, the congressman for this district, voted for that health care bill. You cannot say that you stand for the middle class when you vote for a health care plan that would take 20 million people in this country 30,000 people from this district alone off of health care. He cannot say that he stands for the middle class when he wants to end Medicare as we know it and turn it into a voucher system. He cannot say that he stands for the middle class when he sides with banks over the student when it comes to their loans for college. And so that's what this race is about. I think we all can agree. Randy Holkgren has to go. So when my parents moved out to Boulder Hill, which is a huge residential subdivision, my dad was a bricklayer, my mom was going to school to be a teacher. And after she graduated from college, she still worked at night, to tie everything together. We were that working family that had enough money to go out to dinner once a month, but not much more than that. And so she worked for everything she had, and they instilled that in me. Got my first job as a paper boy, delivering the Beacon News, which they used to print on paper, and you'd have to deliver that after school every day. And I've had a job ever since. When I first ran for mayor, I don't know if you guys remember the blizzard in 2009.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first day I was going to go knocking on doors, and so I got, yeah, right. I didn't look 10 days out in the forecast. So I shoveled my driveway, and I went knocking on doors. And everybody that answered their door, I'm sure I won their vote forever for being out in a blizzard. But we're going to run circles around Randy Holkgren. This election cycle, thank you. He's not out hosting town halls. This week I held the town hall that Randy Holkgren won't hold to talk about his terrible health care vote. And what we did is we took your stories. We took stories there, we took them online, and we're going to wrap those up and submit them to him because he is not willing to meet with you to explain his votes, which are some of the most conservative votes in Congress, but you wouldn't know it from talking with him. And so, in this race, I'll tell you one thing. I am honored to have the endorsement of Congressman Bill Foster. This is a man that stood up and voted for the American Affordable Care Act. He knew that it might cost him his job, but he knew it was also the right thing to do for the middle class. And he cast that vote, which was the deciding vote to pass the bill, and sure enough, he lost his job. To who? To Randy Holkgren in the Tea Party wave. And so that's a man that stands up for his values, and that's why I'm so honored to have his support. So with that, you guys are all ready for lunch? Would love to get out of the rain. My name is Matt Brawley. I'm an engineer and a small town mayor, and I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Yes.
Now you see why we're proud? These are fine people. And, you know, you're all going to have a hell of a time deciding. But there are some, you almost can't go wrong. I have two brief announcements to catch up with things that were mentioned earlier. One is the mechanic strike, the local mechanic strike. I've been given the GoFundMe page, which is so essential for the members of that union who are in danger of losing their health care. And I know you can't write this down, but just realize that there is a GoFundMe.com page for IAM Mechanics Local 701. And please visit it and support it. And next, that very important issue about the county sheriff's awful decision to detain a man solely on the basis of his immigration status. There is the court hearing is going to be tomorrow morning, and there will be a rally outside the courthouse at 8:30 on the courthouse on Route 47. I know it's going to be difficult for many of you. I wish I could be there, but I can't either. But if you can make it, please go. That is maybe the most important emergency issue that we have in McHenry County. And now, thank you for those of you who are still here for hanging out even in the mist. It's not a rain yet, we'll just call it a mist. Thank you for staying. We appreciate it. We're going to see you next year. And all of my friends up here and I invite anyone who is a speaker to join us.
are going to sing out this glorious Labor Day with the labor hymn written by Ralph Chaplin for my old union, the industrial workers of the world. We're going to sing Solidarity Forever.
When the union's
Inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong.
Help us out.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
It is we
Aught we hold in common with the greedy parasite who would lash us into serfdom and would crush us with his might. Is there anything left for us but to organize and fight? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They said,
we who plowed first. We who plowed the
prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the miles, and in the workshops endless miles of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starving midst the wonders we have made, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. Now we stand outcast and starving midst the wonders we have made, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
Do the chorus one more time.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. Thank you, everybody. Woodstock McHenry County